So today's going to be another video kind of catered towards beginners, people who are just getting into this hobby and kind of wanting some guidance on where they could get started. Because with each passing year, it gets harder and harder to get into this hobby, at least in my opinion, because you just have more things to choose from. And when you're watching videos and looking at reviews, you just get information overload. I mean, it was overwhelming for me when I started, but now it's just even more crazy. Flankers are becoming more and more common all over the place from designers and niche. So hopefully this gives you just kind of a point in the right direction. They're going to be some easy to wear, super likable scents that for the most part aren't going to be costing you a ton of money out of pocket. And they're all designers too, of course. You know, and there's so many directions you could go with a video like this. I'm kind of approaching it from a few different angles, kind of giving you some fresher spring and summer scents, but also some more cold weather, fall and winter scents as well, just to kind of cover all of the bases here. But for the most part, a lot of these are going to have the versatility to be worn any time of the year anyway. So we'll get things started off with a couple new designer fragrances, right? Like I said, flankers and new releases every year, all the time, right? And so if you want something that's just going to be kind of new and just, not overhyped yet, right? A new release would be a good way to go. So like I said, we'll start off with a couple of those. First one is Michael Kors Pour Homme. So I picked this one up at full retail on Macy's. I was on there picking up some other new designers, and this is not what I went there for, but I was sorting my newest and I saw it, and I'll tell you what it was, really. It was the bottle, because it looks cool. And I will say it looks cooler in pictures, like the picture that they had on the website. Really, really neat. And it still does look pretty neat in person too. And that's kind of why I went for it. You can see that blue tint in there from the liquid itself, which is already giving you a little bit of a clue on what this one is going to be smelling like and what category it fits into. This is kind of their take on a blue scent, right? No surprise. So, I mean, talking about notes, we've got seawater, bergamot, ambergris, geranium, pink pepper. It's yet another citrusy, fruity, aquatic ambroxan scent. So that's kind of where we're at. You get a bit of patchouli in here too, later on in the dry down to give it a little bit more of a masculine woodiness. And actually, you do pick up on some of that patchouli, even off the opening, in my opinion. When I tried it for the first time, it has a little bit of a slight mature woodiness to it, which I think I would attribute some of that to the patchouli in here. But alongside of that is kind of more of a sweet blue fragrance style. So think of something like Eau de Parfum, Dylan Blue, that type of thing. It doesn't smell exactly like those, but it is definitely in that category with a small twist. I just don't really see this one being all that popular, given the fact that it is yet more of the same, right? However, just because it's not going to be in the spotlight doesn't mean that it's a bad scent either. So I think it was, $92 full retail for this one. At some point it'll work its way down on discounters and then be more affordable. That might be the better time to pick this one up, just depending on what you're wanting to spend. And I did already spray it once, but I want to show you again. Pressurized atomizer. Really, really nice. So, presentation, bottle, atomizer, looks and feels cool and high quality. The scent leaves a bit to be desired as far as being unique is concerned, although I wasn't expecting it to be anyway. However, if you want a wearable compliment getter with decent performance as well, because this is an Eau de Parfum too, check this one out. It's not half bad. So we'll knock out another new release. I got this one in, sometime in spring or maybe early summer, somewhere around in there, I can't remember. Gentleman Eau de Parfum Extreme. So this one's got iris, coffee, and vanilla. Oh, it smells great. And it was kind of interesting because there were a couple notable coffee flankers released pretty close to around the same time. It was this, and then also Valentino Born in Roma Green Stravaganza. That one has a nice coffee accord too, as does this one. Both are new releases. I don't know if that's going to be a trend that's really going to start kind of picking up or if it was just a coincidence, but I love coffee and fragrances. And so when I saw this one, when I got it and I tried it, it was an immediate love because you actually pick up on the coffee note. Sometimes they'll put that note in there and it's more or less for marketing and maybe they want to trick you into smelling it. I don't know, or maybe that's not their intentions, but you don't always pick up on it. but you do hear a really nice, rich, roasted coffee bean accord with that iris and just with that existing Gentleman Eau de Parfum DNA, the Society DNA. So it really smells nice. I was never the biggest fan of the original Gentleman Society. It's not a bad scent, but as far as the scope of the line, I would typically go for the Eau de Parfum Boisé, Reserve Privé, and a few others, right? I never really got into the original, but this one is a massive improvement over the original. So this is going to be one that's going to be more suited for cooler times of the year, fall, winter, and things like that. But, you know, there is still a bit of a freshness in here as well, just a tiny bit. So maybe you could swing this one for a summer evening date night or something. Next up, we have Montblanc Explorer. So this one, it's not going to need too much of an introduction for a lot of people who have done a little bit of digging. But again, if you are brand new, this is going to be a clone of Creed Aventus, which is a very expensive but also very popular niche fragrance that is, you know, $300+ on discounters and retails for well over $400. So very expensive, and it's nothing new. You know, it's been around since 2010, and it's been just popular ever since its release, essentially, but it did, you know, exponentially pick up in popularity as time went on. So I think it's definitely more than reached its peak at this point. Other niche and other designers have come out to just kind of move it out of that top spot, because one of the things that it was in that spot for was compliment factor, right? That was the main thing. Now you have, and this is no joke, I mean, hundreds of clones of Aventus. So when you've, you know, cornered that market, and now you don't have to spend that much money on the real thing, and you can get something that smells very close for $40, $30, $50, $60, people are going to do that instead. And so this DNA, it's become very popular. However, I still don't think that this makes this scent DNA, you know, worthless, and I don't think that it won't work anymore. I still think this is a fantastic smelling scent style to get into, and at this point, I recommend the clones more than I do Aventus itself. And this is a designer mainstream clone, you know, from obviously a big designer brand. You can get clones from clone brands too, but I think when we're talking beginners starting out, going with something like a Montblanc is just going to be more an attractive option for you, given that you can say that you're wearing a Montblanc versus, oh, I'm wearing Armaf or Al Haramain. Nobody's going to know what that is. And so, yeah, I think this DNA, it just works. That's why it's so popular. And again, needs no introduction. But for people who are new, that's the gist of it. And you can dive in way deeper if you are intrigued on the whole Aventus scenario. But most people kind of know that, except for people who are brand new, I guess. So kind of feels like I'm you know, preaching to the choir, but some people might just be starting out and stumbling across this video, so there you go. Okay, this next one's very popular as well. However, not as popular as Aventus, although it is much more affordable too, which is nice. And this is yet another scenario of just still being something that's worthwhile and something that still works, even though people are going to try to tell you that it's been overhyped to the point where it doesn't work anymore. I just don't believe that to be something that is accurate, okay, really with anything. Dolce Gabbana The One, Eau de Parfum. So yet another cooler weather scent. I'm going to be a little bit more specific with this one, though, and talking to beginners who might be just starting out, you know, and depending on the size of your collection that you want to build up. I think this is by far the best scent, or one of the best scents, for more of a date night, evening out situation. Now, this can definitely be worn during the daytime to school, to work, or just running errands or whatever, right? Of course, it could be used for anything. Anything could. But I think this one excels in that type of evening, intimate environment. And so again, more of a dinner date, evening out type of thing, not necessarily something for a partying scent or anything like that, given the performance isn't that good. But for what you will be using it for, going out on a date, that will be perfect for this, because it's softer, it's a little bit more smooth, and it's just not going to be something that is going to just offend anybody as far as being way too strong and being, you know, something that would burn your nose out, just given that projection. You know, this one's very soft and subtle. But it's one of the best tobacco designer fragrances out there, at least the way I see it. The tobacco, the amber, smells fantastic. Again, for most, it needs no introduction, but you can get this one for around, I think $75 or so, 75 or 80 on discounters, somewhere around in there, and it is worth every penny. Next up, we have Valentino Uomo Born in Roma Intense. So it's got vanilla, lavender, and vetiver. You know, I could have put in the green extravaganza, but I really like this one, especially for beginners, and we already kind of put a coffee scent in here, so we'll go this direction. I think this is really nice, and I said I like it for beginners. I like it for anybody, really. You know, it's something that I enjoy a lot as far as its versatility, its smell, and even its performance. When it comes to the rest of the lineup, I think this is one of the better ones. Now, I'm not comparing it to Uomo Intense and the original and things like that, but just in the Born in Roma line, this one is exceptionally good. And again, kind of going back to what I was talking about earlier with Michael Kors Pour Homme, for example, it's not going to be something overly unique, and it's not going to be something that might be exciting in that regard. But if you're just starting out and you're just trying to build up a collection that has some super good compliment getters and just versatile scents that anybody's going to like, I mean, this is that in a nutshell right here. You know, that nice vanilla, vetiver combination. It's giving a bit of a sweetness on one hand, but then on the other hand, you're kind of getting a woody and soapy freshness too. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. And when it comes to scents like this, when they combine fresh and sweet, they work really well because you're kind of appealing to a very broad audience. Because some people like fresh scents, other people like sweet scents. If you can mix them both together in a really good way, it's something that's going to be unstoppable. So this next one is around $40 to $45, and I've always kind of described this as a hybrid of two very popular scents. So we've got Missoni Wave, okay, so definitely one that is gotten pretty popular in the community, that is. Missoni Parfum is really good as well, but in a lot of instances, I kind of find myself preferring Missoni Wave. And what does this one smell like? It kind of smells like a combination of a Versace Pour Homme and Chanel Allure Homme Sport. The Chanel is, you know, over $100. You can't really get it below that very often. The Versace is around the same price as this one, so about $40 to $45. However, between those two, there are differences, right? So the Chanel has kind of more of a creaminess from the tonka bean and the orange and kind of how it's constructed. But the Versace, it doesn't really have any of that. It more so has a bright freshness with a little bit of a floral component. So it's much brighter. And then this just combines the best of both of them. Has a little bit of the Chanel creaminess and a lot of that Versace bright citrusy freshness combined into one for the price of the Versace, essentially, you know? So the way I always describe it is you can't buy both the Chanel and the Versace for the price of this, right? So you're kind of getting a good deal here if you look at it that way. Man, it smells really good. Love the opening. It's just super bright, you know, has a nice pop from that lemon citrus opening, and then you just get a little bit of that tonka creaminess like the Chanel. It is phenomenal. And the lemon especially really comes through, and the lemon kind of reminds me sometimes of the same lemon accord used in Chanel Allure Homme Edition Blanche. That one is one that you've heard of before. It kind of has that lemon accord going on. You get a bit of that in here too, which is really nice. You know, if this was $70, $80 on discounters or something, that would change things quite a bit, you know, because then for a little bit more, you could go up to the Chanel, or for, you know, about half of the price of that, you could go down to the Versace. But this one comes in at such a competitive price point, it's hard not to love. Next up, we have John Varvatos XX Artisan. You know, when it comes to trying to get some relatively unique designer scents for affordable prices, John Varvatos is going to be a good place to start. Now, they definitely have some options that aren't going to contribute to that, you know, mission there, but a lot of them, and we can kind of go through a couple here: Dark Rebel Rider, Artisan Pure, Artisan Aqua, and Artisan Blue. Those are all really good, and I think they all kind of do their own thing in a different way. Now, a few of those are discontinued and hard to get, but you get my point here. And so this one is essentially their answer to a vetiver forward scent. So most designer and niche brands out there have a vetiver scent, right? Just like most at this point kind of have an iris scent, a flagship iris, or a flagship, you know, oud scent or something. A lot of them have a vetiver as well, and this is it. So it's got vetiver, it's got bitter orange, bergamot, and cedarwood. So kind of is building off of that original Artisan DNA with the orange, and then I'm adding in a lot of cedarwood and vetiver to give it more of an earthy, woody, masculine smell. Gives it more of a soapiness, more of a freshness, and more of like a clean shaven, out of the shower type of presentation. So this would be perfect for everyday wear. Signature scent, wearing it to work, to school, whatever. This is it right here. It's, I don't know, $35 to $40 on discounters, so very reasonable. And for what it's worth, it doesn't smell like any other vetiver scent out there, so it does stand out. We'll finish this one off with a Dior scent. So we're gonna spend a little bit more money here, up over $100 a bit. But, you know, if you've got some extra budget to play with and you want a premium quality scent that also smells unique too, I mean, this is it. It's Dior Homme Sport 2021. So this one has lemon, bergamot, aldehydes, LME, woody notes, olibanum, pink pepper, amber, a whole bunch of stuff going on, which when you look at those notes and then you look at the name, Sport, maybe it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And when you smell it, you kind of think that even more. Because when you look back on the line, Sport 2017, Sport 2012, 2008, you know, some of those, a couple of them had a bit of iris in there, and then they went away from that in 2017, and it still had a predominantly freshness about it, but not fully. This one gets away from that fresh sportiness even more, in my opinion. So don't think it's gonna be nothing but freshness all the way through. It's not. You get quite a bit of a woody component out of this one and an aromatic, woody kind of combination. So something to consider. However, it still is incredibly wearable. You can pull this one off for anything. It's gonna be a little bit more of a mature smell too, which I like, and that's why I wanted to feature this one, because some of these, you know, admittedly do lean in the younger, more trendy, modern direction. But this one has more of a mature and grown-up, refined aspect to it, which I think a lot of people would really appreciate. I'm not saying it smells like an old man. If you're a young guy, you could pull this off too, so long as you like how it smells. But I do like the approach that this one takes compared to some of the others out there. Alrighty guys, that's gonna do it for me. Some fantastic fragrances for beginners that are gonna set you off in the right direction. I'll link all of them down below. That's gonna do it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.